Welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Don't adjust your station. This is not a test. This is real for those of you watching. I am Deb Lutz and flying solo here for the first time. Coach unfortunately had some technical issues this morning as we were trying to record, so I'm taking over the reins for a day. Hopefully this is the only time. Coach will be back tomorrow, but I am here to deliver our fantastic Monday 11-game MLB slate. I'm really excited about this slate, not just because I'm flying solo and get to give you all my picks, but I think it's a really interesting slate today. So as I said, it's 11 games. There are 12 games on the docket, but the main slate only has 11. So I'm going to kick things off with giving us a little bit of an update on the weather, as there is going to be some weather issues going on potentially today along the East Coast. And so that will be affecting the Tampa Bay Baltimore game, the Atlanta Philadelphia game, and the Cleveland Boston game. So give a watch out on Discord. We will be giving you live updates on that situation. We do expect it to have somewhat of an impact, and so we may be making some changes later on based on that. But wanted to give you that update before we dive into the 11 games. We've got some interesting games today because there aren't a lot of great pitchers going. So I think there's going to be some decent hitting going on today. And let's get into it. So starting out, as I mentioned, those weather potential games, you've got Tampa Bay at Baltimore. Implied totals of 4.4 for Tampa Bay and 4.1 for Baltimore, behind Corey Kluber for the Rays and Austin Voth for Baltimore. Kluber has been seeing a bit of a resurgence, whereas Austin Voth has not at all. So a little bit surprised by those totals, particularly on the Tampa side, but we'll see what happens with that game. Next up is the Atlanta Braves at the Philadelphia Phillies. Here we do have one of the more premier pitchers of the night in Max Fried going for Atlanta. They have an implied total of 4.85. And then Ranger Suarez going for Philadelphia with an implied total of 3.65. And then the last of the weather issue games is the Guardians at the Red Sox. A little bit higher scoring here, 9.5 overall, with a 4.75 implied total for Cleveland and a 4.75 total for Boston. You've got a couple of pitchers, Zach Plesac and Nick Pivetta, kind of going a little sideways, and I think that's why you're seeing a bit of the higher run total. After that, we've got the San Diego Padres at the Detroit Tigers. You've got the lefty Sean Manaea on the mound for the Padres. Implied total for the Padres of 4.73 and a fairly anemic implied total of 3.77 for the Tigers behind Drew Hutchison. Next up, we've got the Pirates at the Cubs. It is in Chicago, but not calling for much wind, so not expecting one of the classic Wrigley games. Only a total of 8 runs for the game with JT Brubaker and the Pirates at 3.67 and the Cubs at 4.33 behind Adrian Sampson. Next up, you've got the Rockies at the Brewers. The Rockies have an implied total of 3.54. Again, not a lot of runs scored here. Kyle Freeland is the pitcher for the Rockies, and the pitcher for the Brewers is Aaron Ashby. And the Brewers have a pretty nice implied total of 4.96. That is one of the biggest on the night, and I do expect some offense coming from those Brewers. The Los Angeles Angels and Kansas City Royals start up our 8 o'clock slate, and both teams have implied totals of 4 behind Noah Syndergaard for the Angels and old man Zach Greinke for the Royals. Next up, we've got the Houston Astros at the Oakland Athletics. Houston's got a nice, healthy 4.88 implied total, and Oakland has 3.12. Houston is pitching Jake Odorizzi, and the A's are pitching Adam Oller. 9:40 game is the Giants at the Diamondbacks. 4.75 implied total for the Giants behind Jacob Junis, and a 4.25 for the D-backs behind Tyler Gilbert. And our late night games start with the Washington Nationals at the LA Dodgers. So this game is it only has an 8.5 overall total, but the biggest spread with a really anemic 2.92. You don't often see below 3 for the Nationals behind Pablo Espino. And Espino is known to give up a lot of home runs, and therefore the Dodgers are at a whopping 5.57 for their implied total. And I believe that is the highest total on the slate. And that's behind Tony Gonzalen. And Tony does not give up a lot of home runs. He doesn't give up a lot of anything. He's 11-0. And finally, we've got the Texas Rangers at the Seattle Mariners, 3.94 for the Rangers behind Glenn Otto, and 4.56 behind coach's favorite, Chris Flexen. So there you have it. There's a run through of the games. Next up, we're going to be going to the selections of the day. I will be just sharing my selections. But you can look forward to a two brains of better than one, even though there's just one brain here. There'll be two brains behind it. Coach and I did go through the plays for that, and I'll be sharing that in a moment. But getting into my favorite pay-up pitcher, it is Tony Gonzalen. He's 11-0, as I mentioned, and while he had a relatively weak last outing, I expect a bounce back. In particular, given that he's at home, he's had a 1.13 ERA and a 0.69 whip at home. He's also facing a weak offense in Washington. So I think he's a solid play on a slate that's got really weak pitching overall. My value play. Okay, so Coach and I had a good laugh about this one. This is definitely a GPP type play. But I love it. He is Zack Greinke. Now, you may look at Zack Greinke's 3-6 record and +4 ERA and say, Deb, what are you thinking? Go back to, not doing solo podcasts. But if you look at his home record, he's got a 1.86 ERA and a 1.01 whip this year, and it's also where he's had all of those 3 wins. He's extremely inexpensive, particularly on DK, where he's not much more than some of the hitters. And a little interesting tidbit when I shared this with Coach, he told me that Zanke has been known to suffer from anxiety, severe anxiety, going back, throughout his career. And even years ago, he would refuse to go to some of the away games as it was too much for his anxiety. So clearly a pitcher who's more comfortable at home, and I expect a nice showing from him today at that value spot. My fade pitcher today is Pivetta. He was off to a great start. We were riding him throughout the beginning of the season, but he's had 3 games in a row where he's given up more than 6 earned runs, and I think Nick Pivetta has hit a little bit of a roadblock, and I don't expect him to do much better today. So I am fading Pivetta. For my BDP, I've got the catcher on the Phillies, Realmuto. We have to watch that game, make sure that he is actually going with the rain. But he's got a really nice sample size. I'm just going to pull that up real quickly. Excuse me. He has faced Max Reed 28 times with 10 hits, 6 of those for extra bases, 3 home runs of those 6 extra bases, and 8 RBIs for a 357 batting average. He's been hot of late, and I really like him in this spot. For my home run call, I'm picking a guy who is in the top 10 this year for home runs per at bat. And if I told you that he followed Giancarlo Stanton, Austin Riley, and Pete Alonso, I bet you wouldn't expect that it's Hunter Renfroe, but it is. So he's my home run call for the night. Hunter Renfroe's homered in every game of the series versus Colorado, and he's already gone deep against Freeland this year. So I really like him in this spot. He hits a lot of home runs, and Hunter Renfroe for the home run call. For my stacks, I'm going to go back to Milwaukee. Not only do I like Renfroe against Freeland, but I also like the lefties against Freeland, in particular Yelich and Tellez. And so I'm going to look to do a little mini stack from Milwaukee. I think they're a good stack selection tonight, as are the Dodgers. Again, I mentioned to you the The Dodgers have the highest expected run total. They're certainly going to be chalky, but I do anticipate that Espina is going to give up at least 2 home runs tonight, and I'm calling that, and I'm looking to build a little bit of Dodgers into my lineup, and especially if I go with a Cranky, I'll have some extra money to do that. So now going to our PrizePicks plays of the day, and PrizePicks is one of our sponsors, so thank you PrizePicks for being our sponsor. PrizePicks, I've got Nick Pivetta, as I mentioned, not real high on him today, so I'm going with the under on Pivetta at 28.5 fantasy points. And then I also mentioned liking Milwaukee as a stack and liking Renfroe as my home run call, so I'm going with the over half a home run for Renfroe, Tellez, and Adames. I think it should be a pretty good bet to get a home run out of those 3. Okay, so now on to the 2 brains are better than 1. I'm going to pull that up here. And Coach and I ran through this morning, and we have some pretty cool picks here. Okay, so we are going to go with Cranky as pitcher. Again, I think this, 2 brains are better than 1 is our GPP, our joint GPP, and I think Cranky presents a really nice GPP option. He's going to be super low owned. Real Muto is going to be in our catcher position. We've got Rogan Odor as our second baseman. Again, another weather potential, both with Realmuto and Odor. So look for potential changes throughout the day in Discord. We're picking Manny Machado as our third baseman, who's also been really hot and going up against a fairly weak pitcher in Hutchinson in Detroit. A couple of hot bats in Texas, going with Corey Seager at shortstop. Love that pick. He has been really hot. He's had the most home runs in Major League Baseball in the month of July. And we've got Adolis Garcia, who did really well for me yesterday, and he'll be our first outfield position. Then we're going to go with Hunter Renfroe in the outfield as well. No surprise there, given the home run call. And rounding out the outfield with Kyle Tucker, taking advantage of some of that Houston offense. And finally, to get a Los Angeles Dodger bat in there, we've got Freddie Freeman in the utility spot. So that's Cranky, Realmuto, Odor, Machado, Corey Seager, Garcia, Renfroe, Tucker, and Freeman. So good luck to everyone on your GPP plays today with the 2 brains are better than 1. Excuse me. That's it for today in terms of our picks. I want to let everyone know that we do have a couple of specials going on. We've got the MLB second half, $110. It takes you all the way to October 1st, and we're expecting a big second half here at Coach Talk. We're off to a good start already. So join us for the second half, just $110. We'll take you through the next couple of months. And if you just want to dip your toes in the water, we still have our 3 days for $10 special. It's a great time to do it. We've been taking on not only MLB, but we've been doing MMA and NASCAR and PGA. So look for some of that this weekend. So you may want to dip your toes in for this next weekend. And finally, tune in tomorrow as Coach will be back with Crash. I want to just give a thanks to everyone for watching me today. Sorry for the switch up there, but hope you've enjoyed it, and real excited for the slate today. And then join us again tomorrow as we look to crush it in MLB.